everyone, it's time for another Star Trek commentary. I'm Captain Logan. Here's Brandon Grimm.
Hey, how are you?
And Adam Meredith. Hey, Brandon, what are we watching today?
Star Trek First Contact.
What year, Brandon? Can you do it?
I want to say 96.
96
Yay!
is the year of, and in my mind, the year of Star Trek,
Yes.
right? Like, this is when everything was at a peak.
Yeah.
Voyager is coming into, season 3. DS9 is on.
Golly.
First Contact comes out and was huge.
That's a lot of
I
Star
think of that
Trek.
as really kind of like the
the
pinnacle of
30th
the
anniversary,
the 30th anniversary was that year. Yeah, huge year. And I remember First Contact being bigger than it even was, because when I did a little bit of research for this today, it made less money than I realized. It only did like 20 or 30 million better than Generations did.
Oh, really?
And it was thought of as a big hit for Star Trek movies, but everyone I knew saw it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
not-
people that
like,
didn't
not
usually
Star
watch
Trek people.
watch it. Yeah.
Went to that film.
Exactly.
And it was a big deal because it was, I mean, like, it took the one thing that everybody remembered from TNG, even if they hadn't seen TNG, because the Borg was, like, it was almost meme baity before we had, like, internet memes. Like, you already had you had that picture running around of Bill Gates as a Borg.
Right.
Like, everybody saw that. So, like, the Borg was a big thing. It was already becoming kind of like a metaphor for, like, rampant consumerism and things like that. And it just seemed like a really cool big bad guy race. And so, of course, people went to see that. And what's really interesting is and Frank says this a lot, it's a movie that stands great as just a movie that just happens to be a Star Trek movie, and yet is more integrated in the lore and establishes more lore than any of them do.
Right.
Which is really
Exactly.
cool, because it kind of makes the producers, or sorry, the executives at Paramount look like idiots for what they did with Generations when they said you can't call back to very much in the series. With Generations, you can't really like build too much on
Right.
on lore and
Seven
mythology.
seasons,
Yeah,
and-
First Contact does it more than anything did, and is thought of as one of the best standalone Star Trek movies
Right.
that you don't have to have
Certainly.
seen Star Trek to watch.
Right.
That's one of the coolest things about it.
Right.
I hadn't thought about that. If you wanted to start somebody on the movies, you could, or even Star
I
Trek.
think if you want to start something on Star Trek, First Contact is a good place,
Yeah.
and I think
Good place.
and I have issues with First Contact, story wise and stuff, but it is the core of what Star Trek is actually very much present, very much there, and I think a lot of people understood Star Trek better because of this movie, and we'll talk about that as we go along. I launched right into analysis mode, but I wanted to get that out there to start. Are you guys still big fans of this movie, or have you soured on it over time?
No,
Some people
I still like
some
this
people don't
movie.
love First Contact as much anymore. Some people don't think it holds up real great story wise. How do you
I
guys
still
weigh in?
like it. It's still fine. I mean, even though there's holes and stuff in it, but
It has
It's
one of
still
my
fun.
favorite scenes in
I
Star
still
Trek.
really like it.
Well, and they don't even crash the Enterprise.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's where he comes up to Zephyr Cochrane holding the copper coil, the copper coil. He's
Wrench.
like, yeah, and he's like, is this should work or something like that? And it's just so funny to me how he plays that character, just being in awe of Zephyr Cochrane.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the scene that happened. Really, Barclay's cameo is your favorite scene?
Yes.
All right. Well, it won't be as long, but we'll give him the floor when we get there too. Okay. Everybody, if you want to watch the movie with us, we encourage you to do so. Pull out your DVD, your Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. This is another movie that only has one cut. There's not a director's cut or anything for this movie, and is one of the tighter Star Trek movies that doesn't feel like anything is missing.
Right.
Part of that is because there again wasn't all that oversight from the studio, so they were kind of allowed to make whatever they wanted to, which means all of the issues I have with this movie are squarely on the shoulders of the writers.
Right.
There's no excuse,
Right.
There you go.
and so that makes it easier for me to be harder on some of the things in this movie that bug me, because there's no excuse, but it's also why it's so much fun.
Who wrote this movie?
This is also Braga and Moore,
Okay.
just like Generations was, yeah. With some guy that Patrick Stewart was friends with that did a pass that Moore and Braga ended up coming back. They got real pissed off about it, and they ended up coming back finally when Berman yelled at them in his office.
Oh boy!
And he and they ended up finally coming back and doing one more pass themselves. And they claimed that the only thing from that guy's script that they kept was Lily's line, "Watch your caboose," and everything else they got rid of. So they kept that one line. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. Get ready to press play when I say now. Are you guys ready? I'm so excited. We get to watch some real theatrical Star Trek.
Yeah.
Some real cinematic Star Trek.
Right.
I'm ready, Cap.
Okay, here we go. Just the way you were sitting for a minute, I thought you were about to say, "I got to go to the bathroom real quick, Cap. I'll be right back." Did you see that? He had this like. Have we not?
No, I don't think so.
Well, there are other Star Trek movies we haven't watched together.
That's true too.
But you're right.
Outside of this,
You'd
this
think
is the first one
you'd
we've
think
gotten
the
to?
good
we would
ones
have watched that one.
we would have watched together. Yeah. I gotta mention this in case we've never mentioned this on the channel before. Well, we're taking forever. We should get started. Something I don't think we've mentioned is that Adam and I have a ritual now.
Oh, yeah.
Which is if Wrath of Khan is in the theater, we go see it. We have seen Wrath of Khan together twice now. I want to set like a real high record. I want to see how many times we can go to Wrath of Khan. But if First Contact ever comes back, we got to do that.
That'd be fun.
The only one I've ever seen come back to the theaters is Wrath of Khan. I haven't seen any other Star Trek movie around here.
Oh yeah,
in the theaters.
Yeah. I guess I haven't gone to any either. I was trying to think like if Voyage Home had ever happened, but I don't think it has.
Mm-mm.
Not that I know of.
Let's get started. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. You guys, I was just so excited to talk about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I forgot to.
shows.
It's like I forgot to even start playing it. I just want to talk about it.
Yeah. This is one of the best Star Trek scores. This is my favorite.
It's a phenomenal score. It's flawless. The main First Contact theme is, like, the first time I heard it, it almost brought me to tears. Call me a nerd. It's just wonderful. It's also really cool how it brings back the Klingon theme.
Right. Every time the Goldsmiths did a score, because he created that Klingon theme, and there's Klingons, he'd bring that back. Like, because he brought it back for 5.
That's a really good point.
And
That
then
he
he
invented
referenced
that.
it in this. I don't know, did he reference it at all in Nemesis or Insurrection?
I don't think it comes up in
Worf
Nemesis.
at all?
I don't
know.
Yeah, I don't think so. It would have been weird to try to work it in Insurrection anywhere.
Right.
It for whatever reason, it fits the moodiness in the places in which this movie is real dark. Really well, and it's pretty subtle.
Was this a big movie when it came out? How did it do at the
It
box office?
Like I mentioned earlier, it did I think 150.
Okay.
And it was like what was the budget like?
I'm not sure. I would have to check that. It was obviously more than Generations.
And they never spent very much on these Star Trek movies after the very first one until 2009.
Really?
Which was treated, and that's because that was treated not as an extension of the franchise,
television series,
but
yeah.
as its own thing,
Own movie.
and as an attempt to launch a new brand,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
This is one of those themes that is really worth a lengthy opening title sequence. There's nothing real super special about this opening titles, which I think is smart.
Right, it's very subtle.
It's real simple and subtle, and then the first image we get is one of the biggest, most massive special effects
Right.
shots
Right.
in the film. It's really cool. And you just have to imagine that Best of Both Worlds was visually more epic than it actually was.
Yeah.
One of the most inspired things in this movie, of course, is the way in which the Borg are reinvented visually. Which, of course, we keep forevermore, taking the 3 costumes from this movie
Right,
and
reusing it.
them and moving stuff around and probably adding things to them here and there.
You know that
Berman got story credit at the top again. Of course he did.
You know that pile of Borg and Scorpion?
Yes.
That's just
Action figures.
I noticed that when I was a kid. I was like, that's the action figure from First Contact.
Oh, is
I
it
have
really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But it looks
That.
cool.
it looks good.
It's surprising how well integrated it is with the regular footage.
So this is
You
the
don't-
only time we see
The old uniform.
The old, and the old combat. I guess we had the old uniform in Generations, but we never had the old TNG combat.
That's true, and it is really neat that we opened with this because unless you were looking at all the advertising, you wouldn't know that we were getting new uniforms and what they look like.
Right.
I didn't think of that.
How epic a shot is this?
Oh, I know, it's
My
gorgeous.
Goodness, I forgot about this shot.
And from the very beginning, you can see the alien influence. Frakes said that he went back and watched Alien and Aliens multiple times when he was working on this movie.
What do you think of the Spencer's Gifts thingies that they put behind?
And I associate that already.
Yeah.
So, like, I associate that so much with the Borg now
Whenever I
that
see
it's
it,
hard
I
to
think of
even
the Borg.
it's hard to even
So
laugh
gross.
at
Oh,
it.
God. Ugh.
Oh, I know.
Ew, there goes the dent.
Seems very.
What's crazy about this opening is it's a double dream.
Yes.
And I love it. And usually dream sequences like this kind of bug me and feel gimmicky.
What's that thing from the show that's on the back of his chair? What was that?
I didn't see it.
It's some archaeological thing artifact that he was given or something, and it's on the back of his.
See, they're not afraid to reference stuff like that in this because they know how to integrate it for the fans, but they wrote a script that doesn't require you to know anything to appreciate what's happening. Like, I didn't see Best of Both Worlds when I was a kid.
Really?
I saw this movie several times before I ever actually sat down and watched Best of Both Worlds.
That's the thing I'm talking about.
Deep Space 5.
I still. Oh, yeah, I don't know what that is. So I don't know about the whole residual Borg thing.
Right. I feel like they would have gotten all that out of him.
Yeah, how is it still in there? If he doesn't have any technology left,
yeah.
why is it... It makes the Borg feel too mystical.
She said on there, pass over to get the...
This is gorgeous.
That looks great. I think they
This could come out right now.
I think, yeah.
This is 20 years
So
ago. It holds up so well.
did they still use some models in this movie, or are they gone
I
completely
don't know the
CGI?
answer to that. I assume so. The Typhon sector. Yeah.
I feel in this movie they have a better look for Deanna Troi down than they did in the series.
Oh, absolutely.
And it really works going forward.
Yep. And we just hang on to that. That's what she looks like in all of her appearances in Voyager.
We finally nailed it.
These uniforms
Do
are
you buy, and I'm going to ask questions like this a lot through this, because I go back and forth on Picard's character arc in this movie.
Right.
For the movie as a standalone thing, it's
Right.
fine. I question how like angry and bent out of shape he still is, considering how well he seemed to handle it whenever the Borg would come back in TNG.
I buy it for a couple reasons. In TNG, the only times that they came back was one Borg and when it was Hugh.
And then when he's dealing
And
with
then when
lore.
he's dealing
He's not really
with-
dealing with
He's not
the
dealing with the
Borg.
collective, and he doesn't really flip out until they're like full on assaulting, taking over his ship, and he's at this existential crisis where he's got
The thing that makes
the
me
PTSD could be
By the
triggering him.
way, I've gone back and listened to this whole piece out of this opera, and it's just brilliant.
That shot's amazing
Yeah,
too.
it's great. But what I was going to say is, one of the things that makes me question it hard, and my wife and I have argued about this for years, because she hates it. She thinks Picard is completely out of character this entire film. The first thing that makes me start questioning it is that Starfleet would have the insight into Picard's psychology to know that he can't handle going up against the Borg. Even though he has kind of dealt with them a couple more times, and they didn't have that before. It's a little odd that Starfleet's like, we're going to have this big conflict with the Borg, let's keep Picard out of it because of his experience with Best of Both Worlds, even though the last time, besides lore, the last time he really dealt with the Borg, instead of trying to eradicate all of them, he didn't do that,
Right,
and we gave him the order. When Nechayev says, if you ever go up against the Borg again, you are ordered to do whatever you can to destroy them, why are we now saying, keep him out of it?
And I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with keeping him out of this. But as far as his emotional state after they beam onto the Enterprise and they're taking over, and when he's having that scene with Lily and stuff, then I buy.
So
it.
this is going to sound weird, but I don't know if I would question it at all if it weren't for Starfleet questioning his leadership
That was the
abilities
thing.
with that, because if the idea, and this is the way Moore and Braga talk about it in the 50-year mission book, the oral history, I was reading that today, and they interpret their own script in a way I never had before, which is, well, the idea is Picard himself didn't realize how much latent like anger and embarrassment and PTSD he has about the Borg.
Right.
It feels less latent and more present because Starfleet is worried that he'll act like
and
this.
I don't. Yeah, that's
and
the
so
thing
the
I have a
idea is supposed to
problem
be even he didn't know he'd react that way.
They should have had the Enterprise go into the battle, and then I that's the part I don't like about it.
And I also think that, sorry, Brandon, give me just 1 second. I also think that if only he didn't have this weird like telepathic link up with them.
I don't like that either.
It wouldn't bug me as much either, because I'm not saying it's a mind control situation, but and I'm not saying he's really influenced by them, but it's like I can feel them coming, and so like I have these emotions about it. If the idea was supposed to be he didn't know how he was going to react until they showed up, they really should just get there, and he's overconfident, and then he's just blindsided by his feelings about it. Go ahead, Brandon.
I was gonna say I think his mood definitely completely changed the moment he heard the Borg say their little speech about resistance is futile. So, if that informs maybe later on when he's having all of these, I don't know, would you call them mixed emotions? Or just these triggers, okay, these triggers.
Here's your music cue.
I know it's like,
I think that might be the first of them. That might be the first trigger.
You need a Picard you need a scene with Picard before the Borg are influencing him at all. Or before he even knows they're coming.
Right.
Okay, I might have mentioned this somewhere before, but because we're watching it, I'm going to talk about it again. Have I told you about this?
What?
I have a false memory from the first time I saw this movie in the theater. And I'm looking for anybody else that had this, because I swear to God this is what I saw, but there's not a deleted scene with it. There's not an extended cut. Right. I swear to God, I remember there being a scene before we see Worf there on the Defiant. Like there's I remember another scene with Worf on the Defiant, or an extended version of that, I'm not sure which, where he says today is a good day to die, and then later says perhaps today, or he says it's not a good day to die, and then he says perhaps today is a good day to die.
I do not remember that.
Huh.
But it's not in the movie.
Right.
But what's weird is he delivers the line as if he is responding to something that happened earlier.
Right.
He says, perhaps today is a good day to die. We're introduced to him saying a line that sounds like a follow-up.
Why do I feel like I know that line, though?
Isn't that weird?
Right.
But it sounds like, I guess, a Worf thing to say.
I don't like how fast this battle goes.
It goes by real fast.
And I don't like how he just comes in and he's like, oh yeah, I do this and this and this and this. He's like the computer guy at work. Oh, you do this, you got to connect to the right printer.
I think it is really smart to open your big epic action movie Star Trek film with what looks like the climax. What could have been the climax of another movie. I think that's really smart, because the last thing we saw looked real TV, and they're coming out swinging, and they're going, no, Star Trek should be on the big screen.
Right.
And we can deliver an epic just like any other big science fiction franchise. And it's a big deal that this came out right around the same time as Independence Day, because in places it has sort of a similar vibe, but it's got like characters and a heart that movie is missing, and it's overall a better movie than Independence Day. It doesn't have the scale that did, but it's really cool that it comes out in like it's another alien invasion movie. It kind of out Independence Day is Independence Day the same year. Isn't that the same year, 96?
This was the fall of 96, and that had come out in the summer.
That had already come out, yeah. And I just think it's nuts that this comes out and it doesn't feel like Independence Day light. It's a better movie than that. Right. And I like Independence Day. And it is and I'm not like taking away anything from the grand spectacle that was, but it's really cool that it doesn't overshadow this coming out the same year.
Exactly.
What do you think a chronometric particle is?
I don't know. Something they made up.
They're like, we're so tired of writing tachyon.
Yeah, we gotta get something new.
It's got chrono in it.
And metric,
chrono
measure.
It's a measure.
Time
measure particle.
So somebody said this on the. I don't know if this is on the internet. If this was ever.
Look, we've wasted no time.
Right. If this is ever an idea that they actually were going to do, or if it's just somebody's wishful thinking. But what do you think of this idea? Now they brought Worf back, but what if instead of just having Worf, what if they had done a Deep Space Nine TNG crossover, and instead of Lily, Cisco would have been
Oh man,
the one that said Jean-Luc blew up the damn ship.
It might have been too much.
It might have been too much.
Yeah, because Cisco being in this film would have detracted from Picard's character arc.
That's true.
Now, the Cisco versus Picard movie dealing with the Borg could be really cool because of all the baggage with his wife, and he kind of like half blames Picard for the death of his wife because he was Locutus and killed her.
Right.
But you would have had to lose the first contact part.
True.
There's no way you would have had the space for
everything in there. Right.
I don't think it could be a time travel movie. I think if you had a big
Borg invasion.
If it was Wolf 359 the sequel with Cisco and Picard either trapped together on a ship or one commanding the Picard commanding Cisco. That could have been awesome. I also think it would be a lot harder to make it a movie that stands on its own and anybody can come see it. Now, I've never thought of that, though.
I feel like
that could have been really cool.
I understand why they didn't do it.
There's a lot. There's plenty you could have given Dax to do. There's plenty you could have given Kira to do.
I feel like if they had done something like that now, they probably would have tried to do something like that in a post-Avengers Marvel Cinematic Universe world.
Absolutely. We would start saying, "Look, we have a Star Trek Cinematic Universe."
Right.
I'd be like, "Yeah,
we always did.
Star Trek already is one of those." Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Adam, it's the econ.
It's the econ. I really want a backstory, something that really fleshes out what exactly happened during World War III. I've always wanted that, and they've always danced around it. I want to know what the conflict was.
I really like, though, that we didn't feel like we had to sit down and explain all that.
Not in this movie, but I would
it's not important to the story.
If we got in season 5 of Enterprise or something like that, they could have done it, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, but definitely not in this. So I feel like these people, they should have more radiation damage from a nuclear war than they do.
Yeah, right after World War III, with as primitive and with as primitive and small as this group is, it's really hard to believe that warp drive happens here. That they could build that ship.
Also, every nuclear missile silo is a target, so I'm surprised that any would have survived.
It's a really good point.
Unless the bomb that was going to hit it was a dud.
So, guys, let's back off for a minute and talk a little bit about the absurdity of this premise. As cool as it is and fun as it is to watch, the Borg just are not this creative.
Right.
And if they could, and it's the question you have with a lot of time travel things, if you could go back to any time, why'd you pick that one?
Right.
And the answer is, it was a cool way to put two premises together. That's the answer. In a just putting a movie together way, as far as the production goes, the reason is because we had this. They started with Borg and time travel.
Right.
And originally they had silly ideas like, let's go back to the 1500s. And they were like, that's dumb. Let's not do that.
That's seriously insane.
And so then somebody came up with this idea of, well, we've never really fleshed out how the Federation started.
Right.
And wouldn't it be cool if what was at stake was Star Trek?
Right.
And I think that is just freaking brilliant. And the idea of this is again, standalone movie that you don't have to see Star Trek to go see, where you go see it because it's a cool action movie, and then you learn what Star Trek is because the idea of Star Trek is what's at stake. Awesome. Right. And then we'll talk about this later, but this is really cool, thematic stuff with the Borg as a collective group versus the Federation as a collective group, and why they're scary and why and why the utopia of Star Trek is great if you can make it work, but how difficult it is to hold on to, and all of that. It's awesome. But we don't mix it great because the premise is kind of absurd.
Right. Why did the Borg, why was this their plan B? Why didn't they do that?
Why didn't they do it in the first place? Did they come up with it on the spot? Are they riffing? Is this just the Borg? Is this just the Borg's version of Whose Line Is It Anyway? They're like,
There's dryer
So,
hose back in there.
so we got. Go ahead, Brandon.
Can I ask you a question about when they made it a point to be dressing like the people of this time frame, yet they beamed down in the middle of an open square where anybody could have seen them had there been anybody standing.
They're like, well, everybody's running around in terror.
yeah, it's like we're just gonna beam into the middle of nowhere. We're not surrounded by anything.
I don't think they're trying to mix in and blend, though. I think they just don't want to freak anybody out with their futuristic costumes. I think it's just like let's not deal with the uniform thing. We hate having to answer that question because it's such a small place. They're not going to convince anybody that they're from. Like maybe they could convince somebody that they're from some other colony somewhere. Right. I guess maybe that's what that was their plan. But they never try that.
Right.
Picard comes right out and tells Lily where they're from.
Yeah.
Almost immediately. And also, why would you bring Data?
Right. Yeah.
And this is gonna freak her out immediately.
I'm pretty sure the only reason they do civilian clothes in this movie is so that they can get out of the uniforms and just have, some different dress. And also to whoever was doing the wardrobe with this movie, because I don't know who that is. I didn't look it up. But it's also that guy or that lady going, no, look, we can do civilian clothes in Star Trek. It is possible for it to be something better than just a bland tan smock.
A jumpsuit.
Yeah.
A onesie.
Because these are
Or
great.
Big Cisco.
This feels like what people might have been wearing in the 21st century.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it a lot. Okay, so I would like to talk about, and I'm going to try not to do this at length, but this is my favorite thing to talk about with First Contact. I would like to talk about all the people that die in this silo, and about how apparently none of them had children, because I would think that would irrevocably mess up the future.
The timeline.
Right,
Yeah.
because those people were probably important scientists that worked on this project, and now they're all dead.
Exactly.
But yeah.
During the second season of Enterprise, I wrote a fan fiction. And I don't usually talk about fan fictions, but I would like to talk about my fan fiction. Can I talk about my fan fiction?
Go ahead.
I wrote a fan fiction where Q shows up to Archer and tells him that his existence is ruining the future because he wasn't supposed to be alive.
Oh, wow. Oh,
And
no.
that's because Enterprise always seemed to me like an alternate timeline show.
Timeline.
And it was that, and that's how I came up with the 3 timeline theory.
I remember 3 timeline
That
theory.
was, and now it's like 6. But that was where I came up with the 3 timeline theory. And because
that was a good theory.
Because Enterprise has to be of a different timeline, because like the NX-01 launches before it's supposed to, and the Borg changed things because of regeneration, this movie, and then regeneration is a direct sequel to this, and all of that, right? So Q shows up to Archer, and he says, "See, I love that we have downtime like this. Like we stop for a minute and we like think about things and we feel things and characters feel like real people, and it's a big dumb action movie, but people are like people."
Didn't Dr. Crusher say there's radiation coming off of this thing?
But she
and then
always
he's like,
inoculates against radiation, though.
Picard
right?
goes, "Ooh, radiation, let's touch it." But anyway, so Q shows up to Archer, right? And he says, and I can't remember why Q doesn't just like, fix everything himself. I don't remember. But Q shows up to Archer and he's like,
why didn't he ever?
you're ruining the future because it's not just the temporal Cold War.
Right.
You weren't supposed to be alive. Somebody who died in that silo.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Was supposed to marry the person who was your mother. Your mother married the wrong person, and that's why you're born. And you're not as important as you think you are, Archer.
Oh, boy.
And then when season 4 made him like the reason the Federation happens, I just threw my hands up in the air. I was like, see, he's supposed to not be important. Anyway.
So they just had a moment with
And
the ship.
I thought I was a genius senior year in high school when I came up with that. I love how eerie these scenes are shot.
This guy gets red shirt quick.
These are much cooler
Jeffrey's tubes.
Jeffrey's tubes than...
Yeah, that's good.
You do... Oh, you're right. You do have to kind of forget everything you know about the Borg to really appreciate this movie. And it makes things kind of weird and confusing later with Voyager. Because we're dealing with this and also all of the history of the Borg we had prior to this, I've seen her in other things, but I can't remember what. I feel like she's in something. But first of all, the Borg didn't
shot of engineering.
The Borg
That's
didn't
cool.
split off like this and act like movie monsters.
It's a 2-story set.
They're being the alien from Aliens right
No,
from Alien right now.
instead of just being like the force of nature that they were, like Q described in TNG, where they walk and they don't even interact with people until they need to. Yeah.
Until they start firing at them or something. Yeah. Why would the Borg be worried about that girl?
Right.
Like, they just did that because we wanted an eerie, scary, like horror movie scene.
Right.
So the Borg are more out of character than anybody in this movie.
Right.
And if you want to complain about Picard being out of character, you really gotta complain about the Borg being out of character. And we play it, I think, in this film like we're learning more about
That's
the Borg.
just the Voyager sick bay.
It
They
is.
didn't
Yes.
do anything to change that.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
painted the door.
It's red now.
Red.
Ooh.
That's cool.
But I feel like they're trying to dupe us into thinking that we're just learning more about the Borg. Sort of
Right.
like Best of Both Worlds, where you didn't get any sense in Q Who that they actually assimilated people. We thought that
Right.
they just got technology.
Right, or they
In-
just put them. They were a race that integrated technology in the young, from the rather than a pseudo race of a
Right.
bunch of different.
Yeah,
people.
and the babies could have been anything. They could have been
Right.
clones. Like
Right,
you didn't know.
exactly. Like a bullshit.
But with this, we play it like we're getting new pieces to the puzzle. Like, oh, and there's been a queen this whole time that we didn't know about. And it feels to me like retroactively changing stuff, just like we did with Q. Just over and over again.
Right.
Before it feels like we're getting, like new pieces to a puzzle and learning more about the species. We'll talk about the queen, obviously, when we get to her, but it's the biggest misstep in the movie
Right.
for the canon of Star Trek.
Right.
But not for the movie.
Right.
This is a movie. I totally get, like, you want your race to have a face.
Exactly.
Yeah,
This is one of the things I have
Does
a
it-
problem
but it's contrary to what the Borg are.
with. Their security, their IT security on Star Trek is terrible. They should
That's true.
have locked every. I mean, I guess if they assimilated somebody, maybe they could have used their body to unlock the
It's possible.
computer if it was like biometric or whatever, But every
We did that
computer
exact
console
same
should be
shot with
locked
Crusher's face that we did in Generations.
all the time if there's somebody not around it.
Isn't that really funny, though, that
Yes,
we keep
they
having
did.
people wake
They
up
did,
and see Crusher?
There's Ogawa on one scene.
Yeah, she gets to say something.
Does it make any sense that these
here.
Borg should be able to operate on their mission despite the fact that the ship was destroyed? Because they seem to be operating autonomously from the collective at this point.
I guess. Well, they saw the queen.
They have the queen.
Even at this period in space
Yes.
time?
Yeah, she's there.
Okay.
Have you seen the film, Brandon?
Oh, no. That's right. That's right.
have you ever seen this movie?
How did I forget that? I don't know why I forgot that.
They
Yeah.
launched a
Yeah.
sphere,
No, she was on
which
the
is
sphere.
a ship. Even if she wasn't there, they might be disconnected from the rest of the collective, but they have a ship. I mean, like, we've done that before. Like, Hugh was operating apart from the rest of the collective. He just didn't have them in his head.
that's
But,
right. But,
I'm not sure what point you're making right now.
I forgot that.
They don't just turn off.
Yeah, they don't turn off.
Collective.
No,
Just
that's right.
Or like that.
I guess when it's a
You
malfunction.
You do get the sense in Q Who and Best of Both Worlds that maybe that's what would happen.
Or that.
But after that, they change
the
it.
single
Right.
Ronald Moore episode of Voyager with Seven
It's
and
when-
the three other people that
Yes.
crashed on the.
I'm still
planet.
thinking about when they malfunction and it destroys itself. That's what I was thinking about.
Oh, and they disappear.
Yeah.
Okay, remember that plot point. That's going to come back later.
Bionic contact.
That's going to be important.
Hey, it looks pretty cool, man, when they do that.
No, it really does.
I like these guns.
So, Lieutenant Hawk is the least selfish person in the world. Worf just comes in and does his job for him, and that guy
know.
does not care.
It's like, oh, I defer to your expertise, sir. That's cold-blooded.
Yeah, especially since he recovered.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with that.
Yeah,
like,
that's the problem I do have.
I
with
get, like we can maybe have the argument about whether or not he would, feel as strongly about this as he does, and where he would be kind of losing himself.
Right.
But the idea
He wouldn't try.
that he would go, "You're doing them a favor, don't even try." It's
Yeah.
like that makes him somewhat unsympathetic to me,
Right. Or he
Because
shoots the
he
guy.
was rescued.
Right.
That becomes
And they
even
risk the
worse.
They not only risk the lives of everybody on the Enterprise D, but they risk the lives of children to rescue him.
To rescue him.
That is a really good point too. Yeah, one thing. So I think it's important to note that a lot of the problems with this movie are, again, only problems if you look at Star Trek on the whole. Where, for the film itself, it's kind of okay,
Right.
but Voyager keeps making that worse and worse and worse. Every time we rescue someone from the Borg, it seems easier and easier. And, like, it's already a problem that the Borg are supposed to be so difficult to deal with because they can recover from anything, and they keep getting new technologies and stuff, and they keep getting bigger and bigger. So it just seems like they would keep getting harder to beat, not
Right.
easier, but they keep getting easier.
And it keeps getting easier to get Borg technology to defeat the Borg.
That's true too. And then,
Like, they should be able to adapt to their own technology, I feel like.
exactly, yeah. But then it gets really silly that it's so easy to keep bringing people back from the Borg, because we act like Picard is the first time we ever did that. This is some of the most likable Deanna Troi ever is. I really like her in this movie. She doesn't get a lot to do, but... So I don't know if Sirtis was drunk in this scene, but I know Zephyr Cochrane was.
Yeah.
Cromwell was really
Cromwell was drunk during the
What?
scene. Yes. He said he wasn't real sure how to play drunk because he isn't a drinker. So what he would do is, between takes, every time he'd go to his trailer, he would take a shot of whiskey.
Wow.
Oh, man.
He got Irish whiskey, and he'd take a shot of it every time he went to his trailer. And then he'd come back, and he said when they finally shot this, he was not acting.
Cromwell has such an interesting career because he didn't really achieve a real success until
Till he was older.
later in his life. Yeah, until Babe.
Well, and remember, which was only a couple years before this, or was it a year
1 year
before
before
this?
this.
Yeah. So he's won an Oscar by this point.
Right.
And it's also important to remember that Cromwell had already been in Star Trek like 4 times, 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
As like an alien with a bunch of makeup on too.
It's really cool that they went to him because, like, he's already a veteran Star Trek actor, but he's also a major film star now all of a sudden.
Yeah. That's great.
And this movie has a killer guest cast. And I would argue maybe the best guest cast, just as far as like acting cred, street cred.
Look at his tactical vest.
I like
Like
that
Alfre
guy.
Woodard was a big get
Right. And she's so great in
because
this.
and she's playing against type. She'd never done an action hero type character. And see, Brandon, that's what I was talking about with Men in Black International. I wish they did that with Hemsworth. I wish they would have cast him and had him play completely against type.
Yeah.
That's why Lily's so great in this.
They redid, or Cisco uses that vest, I think, later on.
I didn't realize that they pulled up a hatch out of the middle of the hallway.
Like, I'm not saying you always have to do that. That like straight up constant typecasting is irritating for an actor. And like if somebody doesn't have a whole lot of range, it makes sense to have them keep doing the thing that they're good at. But man, like, you give me somebody like Hemsworth, who we've seen has a little bit more acting chops, and we just keep making him be like big dumb pretty boy guy. And so then I see a thing like this, and we're casting people against type, and I'm like,
No,
He still has to click his
He
head.
can turn it off now. He's got that ability.
yep. I don't have a problem with that. There's been some time
I got
Happen
that.
between,
Yeah.
Yeah.
between
There's
things.
time between films. I don't know why that's a problem.
Yeah.
I like how he still has to twitch his head to turn things off, though.
So I'm going to make an argument, and I want to know if you guys agree with it. I think for Star Trek canon, so this is, of course, one of the most popular Star Trek movies for fans and non-fans alike, right? But I would argue that it is the most influential Star Trek film for canon.
Oh, definitely.
Bar none. Both
It is,
visually
yeah.
and story-wise.
Do you think, I mean, I guess, yeah, for the overall history, yeah.
Like, this movie is just what Voyager looks like after Scorpion.
Right. Even the guns. They got these guns that they never had
Yeah.
for the first 3 seasons.
That's a
Voyager,
really good
all of a
point.
sudden
Suddenly they have
turn
them.
up.
But not the
And-
uniforms!
And the spacesuit.
Even after they
had
see
the-
them
and
when
had
they...
the well, I guess they could have always had the spacesuit. They just never showed it. But
That's true. But it
the
is the
guns,
first contact
they
with
showed it, but
space.
they had different guns in the first.
But also, I just feel like, not just like the props that they took from the
Right.
movie, but I feel like mood and atmosphere is influencing Voyager really hard after this.
Right.
And First Contact, and DS9 too.
Right.
But especially Voyager.
Right.
Obviously, partly because it's the Borg show. And the thing with Voyager is, it doesn't always feel like a, pale shadow of this. It duplicates that well in several places. Not by the time you get to things like Unimatrix Zero, but Scorpion. I mean, Scorpion feels like almost like a decent sequel to this. And it's just after this, isn't it?
It would have been, yeah, I guess.
Or maybe a year after this.
I think it would have been.
Because Voyager, you know what? I was wrong. I said third season. Voyager begins in 95.
Well, this would have been.
And this comes out in 96. So
this came out when I was in 4th grade, and Voyager was in the 3rd season in 4th grade when I was in my
Oh,
4th grade.
okay.
Yeah. So, and that was the end of the 3rd season. So this would have
Oh,
been a couple
Voyager has
months
that weird
later.
half season.
They do. Just
Yeah.
like Deep Space Nine.
Ow, my face!
Boom.
So
Hand-to-hand
what we learn
combat.
here is the Borg
Why did
adapt.
you shoot the guy up there? That's a waste of a shot, War.
The Borg adapt to
It
energy
was.
weapons way better than they adapt to physical stuff. So why wouldn't you do what Worf does in this movie and just use a mechlith every time?
Yes.
I want to know how they would adapt to that. Although, well, okay, I have an answer. The way they adapt to that is they use personal shields, but it doesn't seem like their
Right.
personal shields work against just hitting
Right.
them with stuff.
Right,
Like
exactly.
Worf is doing right
No,
now.
it's like
Exactly.
Doom. The slow blade penetrates
Yeah, so-
the shield.
The shield
Patrick
is
Stewart
only
showed
there
us
for the
that in the
energy
movie.
weapons. It disperses the energy.
Oh, and like
of the
droid
energy.
decais.
Droid.
Like droid decais.
Oh, no,
You
Matt.
just snap that
Droid
Borg's neck.
decai.
It can't assimilate against neck snapping.
Why not, though? They have personal shields.
That guy
That-
sucked.
Wouldn't
No,
the
but-
shield
so-
block it?
No, the
They just
shield is
walked over him.
dampening the energy of a high energy weapon.
Okay, but why? So why is the shield anything more
Yeah,
than a
why
force
wouldn't it
field?
force
And
field?
even if
Exactly.
it isn't, if you're the Borg, you had that technology. You could just set up a force field,
Well,
and then
remember,
you couldn't hit them with things.
but remember, even the starship has to have a deflector dish. The shields don't guard against debris in space, so therefore
Yeah, but
I'm
you can't
saying
walk
that
through
the
a
Brandon,
shields
force
don't
field.
guard
But Brandon,
against.
a force field
You can't
in a
walk through
brig,
through- yeah,
you
can't walk
can't
through that.
hit through it. You
Right.
can't walk through it.
Shields are not force fields.
You missed
They
what I
could be.
just said.
No, I don't think they can
Why
combine them
couldn't,
either.
why couldn't they just make it a force field in the first place?
I don't know, but I don't think they can.
But you have no good explanation as to why. The Borg have freaking transwarp conduits. I feel like they could probably come
Well,
up with a way
they
to
probably-
make a
yeah.
force
Oh,
field
this is the cool
on
part.
themselves.
This part
A
here
shield
is
field.
too much.
Yeah.
Shield
Shooting the guy
field.
dead.
Yeah, no,
where
that's
they crossed the line.
going way too far. And they just, the thing is, they just don't make me buy that he's that far gone.
No, he's not there yet. He's not like,
Yeah, he's
on
not.
the holodeck and and screaming at Lily in the ready room yet.
Here's the other problem too. Picard losing himself and not realizing it would be a lot more compelling and a lot more believable if it had more to do with what the stakes are. The stakes are the future.
Right.
The stakes are Star Trek. The Borg are threatening to not only assimilate the species,
Right.
but they're threatening to change history
Destroy
so that
everything that Picard
everything they've
cares
ever
about.
everything that humanity ever achieved
Right.
in creating a utopia and getting past what we talk about in this movie, and I love that this is talked about here, where we no longer are about the acquisition of things, but we're about helping each other. We're going to lose all of that. Picard should be talking more about that stuff. And that combined with they hurt me would make that a whole lot more compelling. It can't just be Ahab. Not with this character. He's too thoughtful for that. So I don't go as far as my wife. I think you could have made me buy it more. But like, you know how I always say that from this movie on, we have a different Picard. We have action. We have action movie Picard now. Moore and Braga talk about that and call him that like it's a good thing. Right. They're like, and now he's action movie Picard, and I'm like, that's a problem though.
I mean, I buy it in this at least partially more than I would, and then in the other two TNG movies.
Me too.
They don't make any sense why he's acting.
Can't you have that and intellectual Picard?
Right. Acting. But we'll get to that next time.
You guys, well, I'm not showing up for that. You guys enjoy yourselves. I'm gonna be in the captain's yacht.
The captain's yacht.
Captain
There's another
yacht.
drill.
Man, there's a lot of like drilling into things.
Some model of his
poking eyeballs and
yeah. That drill in the eyeball was kind of a little bit. I feel like
Randy,
a little reminiscent of the scene in Terminator.
You should cosplay as Zephyr Cochrane.
How would I get away with that? The hat?
The hat and the cool lamb sheep.
The sheepskin
coat.
Yeah.
No, you could totally do it.
All right.
Your face is shaped right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he should totally do that. That'd be awesome.
How do you guys feel about the aesthetic change of Geordi without his visor?
That's because LeVar didn't want to wear the thing anymore. He's like, I'm done with this.
So here's the thing.
Why would he rather wear contact lenses than
well,
that?
So two big reasons. I've read about this, so I can answer this question. I was prepared for this question. I'm taking a test that I studied for. He says in the 50-year mission that the visor hurt to wear.
Oh, really?
That it was actually painful and he had to wear it for 7 years in a movie. And he had been trying to get them to switch to contacts through a lot of the series and they wouldn't do it.
Oh, wow.
And of course, you know, part of that is because it's the look everybody's familiar with, and they said that like it's a lot of what's supposed to give you a sense of the technology of that era and stuff, and so they didn't want to get rid of it. But the other thing is, he says it's a crime to take away an actor's eyes. And he said as soon as I took the visor off, even though he had those contacts and you couldn't see his pupils, he said as soon as I took the visor off, the actors in scenes with him treated him differently.
Oh, wow.
Really?
He said it just makes a big difference when you make eye contact. And he said he had 20% visibility with the visor.
Wow. Yeah, because it narrowed his vision to like straight ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, under those conditions, I also would rather have contacts.
I would almost gather there would be
real quick, because he's about to say it. I gotta say this. Okay. So when he says it's like some kind of Star Trek, it shouldn't work, but it does. Yeah. That should drive me crazy. I know. I love it.
I loved it.
I think it totally works. And some of that is thematic. Some of that is because what is at stake is Star Trek.
Right.
And that's part of why I love it so much. But like, usually that kind of thing plays too cutesy. It does it in this. It's really clever.
And James Cromwell sells his character.
He sells, and that is one of the most inspiring things in this movie is the like don't meet your hero subplot. The he's actually kind of a jerk face,
right? And
this is a bad period in his life, and nobody expected him to be like this. And the geniuses, it's great. It's so great. The geniuses that build our world are human beings. And they've got flaws, and they do dumb things, and they've got their vices just like the rest of us, and some of them are some of them are addicted to alcohol and drugs, and some of them aren't very nice to their children, and like everybody has problems. What are you gonna say, Brandon?
I was going to say, considering that Geordi and Data are friends, and in the previous movie we got a scene where Data's reflecting on his emotion chip, I might have appreciated them having Geordi reflect on his visor.
There should be a mention of it.
Yes.
There should be some talk about it.
Like he should be keeping it as a memento, as this is what I've come from. This is how I've evolved.
Some of these, see, I just want to show you how much Picard lucked out when he was assimilated because they didn't cut off his arm or take his eye out.
That is a terrific point. They just make that really rough and vulgar because it's a PG-13 movie, and you can get away with that, and it makes it. And again, Frakes is looking at horror sci-fi, and the Borg is a great place to do that. Like, it doesn't feel out of place. It's totally right.
This is amazing.
It's amazing.
Like, just my goodness, they're like ants coming out of nowhere.
In Both Worlds, when they put that thing on Picard's hand, they just slide it over.
Just slide it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't take his eyeball out.
Just go like
No, you're right. He got really lucky. I want all these guys to be even more irritable than they are, and then suddenly somebody just says, "Look, it's hot, okay? It's really hot."
And that I can at least buy because they hadn't really established how creepy the Borg were full on yet because they hadn't got to the special effects.
That's true.
But in Voyager and Human Zero
makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. None of them have any scars afterwards or anything.
Yeah, B'Elanna should have raised her hand and been like, "Okay, but am I going to lose body parts if I become a Borg?" Yeah, B'Elanna, Tuvok, and Janeway all get Borgified on purpose.
Yeah, that was the most dumb thing. Oh my god.
Oh, it's horrible.
Even when I was like
12
years old, like, this is stupid.
There are worse, less watchable episodes.
Right.
It rarely gets as dumb as that.
Right.
And that's just so, like, retroactive and stupid that you'd have this, like, dream world where people's humanity... Okay, so I will freely admit that this is a thing I didn't think about until I saw the Red Letter Media video, but I have to mention it. What is this room for?
Yeah, what is the hole?
I don't know.
Why is there a hole?
In his review, he spends 3 minutes on this where he's like, there's a whole panel to open a door?
Right.
Yeah.
And what is this room for?
Did you see, like...
Yeah, it's like some sort of loading thing.
Yeah, would you really have this tiny room where the only thing separating you and the outside is a force field? Like, I realize there's a door that slides out, but still... No, it's hilarious.
You're just showing her a window. I don't know. This point would have been
the
same.
It's a window.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's true. You could have just gone to crew quarters.
Right. Or any window on the ship.
It's like for some reason she would only believe it if it was a force field. He could have taken her into a holodeck and she wouldn't even know it was a holodeck.
Right.
And he could have been like, space, the final frontier.
He could have been like, we're back on Earth.
These are the voyages of me and my crew.
Do you like and do you buy that this Enterprise is much more Spartan and militaristic feeling than the Enterprise D?
Not in the grand scale, but it works great for this movie. It's the same thing Nicholas Meyer was doing with the nautical stuff, right?
Exactly.
We're going to go up against, like, the scariest force that's trying to take away literally our humanity. So we're going to have it's nice that they were able to build this set for specifically this story, but the problem is you're stuck with it after that, right? So, but I love it thematically, visually. This idea that we're going to make it look more militaristic, to show you how easy it would be for us to lose ourselves.
Right.
Like, how much closer do we have to be to the Borg to fight the Borg? Which is what Picard's story is about.
What a crazy shot.
And it's also and that's brilliant, and it still holds up. It looks amazing. That's Alice Krige.
Okay.
And it's nuts how well this still holds up.
Oh, yeah. It looks great.
Frakes just kept asking for stuff he thought the special effects people would say, no, we can't do. And every time he asked for something, they said, yeah, we'll figure out a way to do it.
Made a darn good movie there.
So, again, on a thematic level, I love the stuff between the Borg Queen and Data. On a story level, it plays real schlocky.
Right.
And it kind of doesn't work. But the idea that in order to be more physically like humans, to go even one more step toward humanity, to like get skin and stuff and feel what it's like to be human, Data would have to like work with our exact opposites.
Right.
And that's what could give him humanity. It's a real provocative idea.
You ever think about how gross this is? That's some of his fellow crew members' skin that they grafted onto him.
Yeah, no, that's messed
And an
up.
eye.
And I think this was real exciting to people because we didn't do this kind of stuff in Star Trek.
Right.
But TOS would have totally done this kind of stuff.
She's a bit slimy.
She's very slimy.
Does that have to do
Now
with the
he's-
temperature?
Now he's laying down on one of those Spencer Gifts things.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a different one though than you usually see. It's got
It's not
multiple
the
colors.
green one. It's
It's got to be special for Data because tapping into his positronic brain.
So the reason this kind of
That's good.
pseudo-romance thing doesn't work for me is because I don't buy that the Borg Queen would be that fascinated by a robot.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, but I never quite bought that.
Yeah, especially because she calls the crew just calls Data, what is it called? Redundant, primitive android.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
obsolete
And
in the
remember,
new
that was
order.
the Borg. We try to play her real mysterious where we don't know too much about her, and that's very effective.
That line means so many different things now than it did when I first saw this.
It's very effective in the scenes. But when you really stop and think about it, it's like, okay, we know so very little about the Borg Queen that I don't even know her motivations through the film and what exactly she's trying to do. Like, first of all, I don't know if she's an embodiment of the collective or if she controls the collective.
Right.
And when we get to Voyager, we can tell they didn't know that either.
Right.
So that's
Like
a problem.
Borg sounds sweet.
Until you get to the last big scene with them, you don't know if she's just playing him or if she actually is that fascinated with Data.
Right.
And then it turns out that she is, and I don't buy that. Where she like teases Picard and she's like, I've already found an equal. And I think she's like telling the truth in that moment.
Right.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah, Data. Right.
Maybe she finds an equal in the opposites.
He's just a robot to her.
Right.
Like, I don't understand why she's so fascinated with him.
Because he's trying to be human. That's what that was one of the first things she said was,
Thematically, I get that.
yeah.
When you're the Borg and you're just assimilating technology and people, I don't... Like, am I supposed to buy that whether she's an embodiment of the collective or she's actually controlling them, am I supposed to buy that the Borg are that philosophical about anything? Like, they're a completely different thing in this
Right.
than they ever have been before.
That's
And again, we're acting like we're just learning more about them,
Right.
but it's a complete contradiction. But the movie doesn't think it is.
Right. One of my favorite callbacks in all of Star Trek is in Treachery, Faith, and the Great River, when Jake goes, "We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity." And Nog goes, "What exactly does that mean?" It means we
Yeah,
don't
it's
need
great.
money. And also Quark. This far, no further.
Okay, so in this scene, because we need to get through this hallway, and because Lily's supposed to be our eyes in for people who don't know anything about the Borg.
Yeah.
Now they're acting like the Borg. But in
Right.
earlier scenes, they were
going on
aliens
full assault mode.
from Alien.
Right.
That guy turned like he wanted to go somewhere, couldn't go anywhere, so he just turned back around to his console. He just walked in a little circle.
So, like, Picard has to shoot a nodule or something before
Yeah.
they start coming after them.
Uh-huh.
So
Perceived as a threat.
So why were those crew members earlier in the movie killed in the corridor?
Yeah, why didn't they shoot the nodules to stop them? That's what you had to do in Star Trek Elite Force, Jay.
That's right. I know.
So
That's
now
kind of
we-
based on this scene, really.
We get some holodeck
There's Ethan
time.
Phillips.
There's Ethan Phillips.
Oh, nice.
And it's kind of fun that he and Picardo were both in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a fun cameo.
Oh.
Which I didn't realize in the theater because I wasn't really into Voyager yet. And so this is another great example of following up on something or
Right.
calling back to a thing in the series
Right.
that the audience doesn't
and
have to
not
know
caring,
about.
yeah.
It's not. That's not important.
Right.
But for those of us that know TNG, it
Right.
feels like a TNG thing,
Right.
and it feels like a movie that loved that series, and it feels like you're finally getting to see TNG with millions of dollars. It's just wonderful.
This is a great scene just because they had to bring out a whole completely different style of costumes to populate this scene. and just make
I've
it
never
a
seen
completely
this
different
shot.
time frame. They've basically done another time hop without doing a time jump.
Yeah, it's true.
This shot was in the trailer of Picard with the machine gun. I was like, what?
If you were cutting that trailer, you would have done that too. I bet Frakes insisted on that. He was probably like, "We got to get the machine gun in there."
10-year-old
Why didn't he just...
Okay, so she looks a lot like Minuet.
Yeah? So how come he didn't just replicate a machine gun? Like, have it give him a machine gun?
The reason is because they thought it would be cool to stop everything and have a time jump without a time jump, Brandon.
Well, true enough, but maybe Picard's just not thinking that way.
I've seen this guy a lot.
Could you buy that Picard's not thinking that he could just have it generate a machine gun?
No, I don't buy that at all. He's not so far gone that he's forgetting how his technology works.
Well,
he took
no,
her all the
certainly.
way to a room that we didn't know existed that just had a window.
Yeah, true enough.
No, this is him being inventive. Now, it is possible that, because there are different kinds of replicators, right?
Yeah.
So it is possible that the replicator that would make him a machine gun is on a different deck he can't get to.
True.
That is entirely possible.
And-
But he doesn't bring that
Well,
up.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm even saying, when he walked into the holodeck, he could have just said, "Computer, generate a machine gun." He didn't have to go into this.
Well, that's because he was trying to create a diversion, so they had to try to find him in the crowd. And
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he just had the machine gun, he would have it that fast as walking into the holodeck.
I guess.
That's as long as it took him to start the program, he could have just asked for a machine gun.
This is weird.
No, this is entirely unnecessary.
Right, this
Yeah.
is weird that the Borg would like keep the clothes on. And then put
Yeah.
all that stuff on top of it.
So
they
here's the
didn't
thing.
disappear.
You can explain anything away with the Borg by saying that they're adapting so much technology all the time. They're always adapting. That they might keep doing things differently. So it's really easy to look at this and go, like, I'm with you, that's weird. But it's really easy to look at this and be like, well, they took Picard's uniform off.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're like, well, maybe they just do it differently now.
I guess.
So
I mean, that's the explanation for the...
Right.
Here's the thing. That could be the explanation for the change in the look, except we get a flashback where everything looks like it does in this. So that's just a suspension of disbelief thing, I guess.
did he not
What's your
just?
favorite scene?
Oh,
Oh, Brandon has the floor.
yeah. That's...
Right.
There he is, Reginald Barkley. He's in awe of this guy. What the
Yep.
heck? I guess it
He
falls
sure
in
is.
line with Reginald's character just kind of being the bumbling genius, if you will.
I've met Dwight Schultz. He's awesome.
Yeah, I bet he is. Did Picard take a thing out of the Borg and then just attach
Yes.
it to his tricorder?
Yeah,
He
just
sure
on that
did.
point.
Yeah, it just went right in like it was built for it.
It had USB port on it.
So, I really like seeing Geordi starstruck, because I think he would have to meet somebody like Zefram Cochrane before he was this starstruck.
He kind of was with
And-
the engineer woman.
Well,
That wasn't being starstruck. That
Well, he
was
was a love-
that
it was love
being,
interest, but-
Yeah, he had the hots for her. That's different.
Certainly.
And he's always weird around women, because for some reason we had to make that a Geordi character trait.
This is the weirdest outfit. What Reg is wearing. Do you see? It's got like these buckle
Oh,
things
that's so
all
weird!
The way down
It's
it.
Is he about to go white water rafting?
And he's wearing a life vest, yeah.
He's wearing a life preserver.
He's like this with his hand.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
This
that's so
coil.
weird.
This coil's got to do it for warp travel right
Yeah,
there.
that coil. That's an ordinary
Mar-
copper coil.
Yeah.
Marty
it's just-
Marty McFly's mom's dad is about to be like, why are you wearing a life preserver?
It reminds me of a chiller, like when you put water through a coil like that around like a cold pipe, it would chill it down.
So, one of the genius things about this movie is having these two subplots that aren't totally disconnected. And, I mean, it does this really well, just like Voyage Home did, right? Where you had all the characters branching off, all with different missions that were all meant to lead to the same goal. And we have that here, except it's simplified where everybody's in one place on the planet, and everybody's in one place and then everybody else on the ship. And we do most of the comedy on the planet. and most of the serious, more scary stuff is up on the ship. This all gives us a reprieve from the horror movie stuff.
Right.
So whenever we go back to the ship, it's more tense
Right.
because we've relaxed during these
Gives
scenes.
us,
Certainly.
right, gives us some of the classic Next Generation
Exactly,
lighter
yeah.
feel too.
And that's why this feels like such a consummate Star Trek thing, because you can get as serious and dark and also philosophizing as this movie does. I'm not saying this is like a super deep movie, but it gels. It's about something. We talk about how Generations is about a lot of things and ultimately not really about anything.
Right.
This movie's about stuff. And
Insurrection's about stupid things.
and stuff that other things in Star Trek did better. But in this, you never lose that sense of fun, but it can get as serious and dark as it does. And we still have even some fun on the ship. It's not like every time we go to the planet, it's like now it's a comedy episode. But more of the amusing stuff naturally comes out of the fact that the inventor of warp drive is a drunk womanizer
Right.
and doesn't actually care about anything but making money. And I love the idea that the thing that leads us ultimately to the altruistic philosophy of Star Trek is a guy who kind of thinks the opposite.
Right.
And you sympathize with him because of where he came from. Like, we just came out... This is basically post-apocalyptic.
Right.
And so, of course, this guy is cynical.
Right.
Right.
And, of course, this guy doesn't really believe in anything. But
Right.
he has an idea, and he's brilliant, and he knows how to execute a thing that would make him rich.
Right. I remember I read the novelization of this, and
I've heard there's cool stuff in that that's not in the movie.
explained that the reason why Zephyr Cochrane drank was that he was self-medicating because of he had I don't remember what it was, but he couldn't get the medication anymore after World War.
Oh, interesting.
III.
Well, and it would have been cool if that was developed a little bit, because you could have had a character parallel with PTSD between him and Picard.
Those are some cool effects for those eyes. And nowadays, they're making contacts that will zoom in and do things like that. They're designing them in the early stages.
We're all going to be cyborgs within 20 years, guys. Just wait for it.
We'll have a link to the internet connected to the back of our heads.
And then we'll look back at the visor in TNG and we'll be like, that's so quaint.
They finally got some good spacesuits in Star Trek.
I know.
Yeah, no
it took
kidding.
forever.
I guess they had some okay
I like
ones.
the ones in Tholian Web.
In motion picture.
You don't like the Tholian Web ones?
They're
Well,
fun,
you
but
could
they're
see through. They had like a screen, didn't they?
No. I'm talking about the one where when Kirk phases.
Right, but did it actually have plastic?
Yeah,
or-
it did.
Okay.
No, you're conflating the environmental suits.
Well, I remember those too, but
in
I swear that
Naked
the Tholian
Time.
Web ones had.
No, they're spacesuits.
Oh, okay.
I'll show you a picture. I'm gonna show you a picture.
So does this ship also have civilians on it, like the D
Apparently
did?
not.
Doesn't seem like
Don't
it,
show
does
them
it?
in here.
Okay, this is
They're
a
all blurred
really
now,
cool
Brandon.
shot.
That
This
was
is
a dark scene they had to cut.
Yeah, Brandon, you're making me think of something that I've never thought of before that's kind of important.
Yeah.
It's not a cruise ship anymore, is it?
No, not really.
And now
that's
it-
why it's more utilitarian.
But also, now it makes sense because it's kind of what it always should have been. Why
Yeah.
would the flagship of the Federation have families on it?
No,
It
I
never
know, that's
really
a
made a
question
lot of
I've
sense.
asked
Ridiculous.
time and
Have
time
families
again.
on
How
the
cool is
spaceship
this? You
like
get a
that.
sense of scale now with the three
Yes.
officers on the underbelly of this ship.
And this is ambitious as hell.
Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so
And so cinematic. In the theater, this was quite a treat.
when
It was
they
a big deal.
when they jettison the deflector dish, that's quite a scene too.
Except I don't understand why it's held on by one vacuum cleaner hose.
I don't either.
That's an EPS conduit, Adam.
Okay, well, why is it one EPS
So why is
conduit?
it still turned on
I-
after it disconnects with the?
Honestly, I don't know what it is. I'm making an assumption based on what I know about starships in the Star Trek universe, but I would
Yeah, I
gather
mean,
to guess
it's all connected.
it's a data cable.
Okay. Okay.
That spacesuit's all interconnected.
Which
I
spacesuit-
thought that
so.
the helmet.
Yeah, because you're conflating it with the environmental suits,
No,
where you can just reach up underneath them.
Yeah.
Just one thing about that spacesuit that makes it neat is that the circulatory and the respiratory systems on the suit are colored red and blue.
On the Tholian Web one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So
They were
you know
thinking.
which system is which system.
Yeah, no, that's cool. They were thinking. Okay, but she does, it'll turn out. That's the thing, is that she's not just seducing him.
One of many.
If it was just that she's seducing Data to get what she wants, that's maybe okay.
I think she might be fascinated by the fact that maybe you can do the reverse of what she's doing to like assimilate
How does
the
that
Borg
make
into
him
technology.
an equal? When she at the end says, "I've already found
ran
an
in
equal,"
Borg
I
Force
think
field.
she's
Borg
telling the
Force
truth, and I don't get that.
Gotcha.
He couldn't walk through the force
Why is he
field.
bleeding
The
though?
Borg force
Because
field.
Yeah, he wouldn't have a whole system like
he doesn't have a.
he doesn't have
circulatory
blood.
system. Yeah, not blood yet. The
Yeah, it
skin
should be like
just.
all dead and necrotizing and such. Yeah.
Well, it hurts. That's the response.
Yeah,
you
that's
get.
what I always said. Yeah.
It hurts, so you know it's a natural
And if you-
reflex.
Yeah, and if you only have one thing on your whole body with nerve endings, it probably hurts that much more.
Yeah, I mean, Data's not used to like clenching at things, but this is a new sensation. He's gonna reach for it.
It's a new sensation.
Detective search.
Storage compartment.
Ooh,
Ew.
But yeah, it's really cool that you can have a scene like this that makes you cringe,
yeah.
that really bugs you, at the same time as a lot of the comedy in this movie that I think all plays. Star Trek doesn't always integrate that stuff real well, but a lot of the best TV episodes do.
This is a fun callback here.
Yeah, the fully functional thing, and it's fun.
And how many years ago it was the last time.
Yeah, but it's fun that we don't have to come out and mention exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Again, nobody that's never seen TNG is lost with this stuff.
But who's
Because-
counting?
Anybody that comes in knows that these are pre-established characters. Even if you've never seen an episode, you at least know that you're not watching something that doesn't have a history. I would think, as an uninitiated person, it would be weirder coming into a thing like this and it never talking about anything that happened before, because I would expect a history. So I'd be like, how come I'm having my hand held so hard? And that's part of why I think Generations probably doesn't work for an audience that isn't familiar.
I love how they can detach the deflector dish from the outside via these like mag
Yes, but they're
locks.
ridiculously complicated to do.
Well, you don't want just anybody disengaging the
Yeah, but
deflector
not
dish.
anybody could do that. They'd have to go on to the.
You gotta
also-
build it somehow.
I also think every technical step-by-step, press this button, turn this lever thing,
they're all.
I think every scene in Enterprise that does that is looking at that scene. Do you remember those? All through Enterprise, there are so many of those scenes. That would not happen if it wasn't for that scene.
Like the whole climax when they're trying to blow up the Zindi weapon and stuff. There's something involving that. I don't remember what.
Well, yeah, but
Where it was really complicated.
I'm thinking of things like Minefield, where it's like I'm on the outside of the ship.
Oh yeah.
And I gotta like press all these buttons and do all these levers, and there's like this step-by-step process. Remember when because I know what it was. It was to deactivate the mine because Reed had his leg impaled.
Right.
But there are a lot of those scenes, and they got real prop happy with those. Like they're all really cool looking, and they've really thought out how all the technology works. But they always went on too long, and there's a lot of that in season 4 too.
This kind of what they do with the deflector dish kind of reminds me of the thing that 7 of 9 ends up having on her cheek, that little kind of spider-looking thing.
Which thing?
You know, the little
Oh,
thing
the
on her
thing-
cheek
the
that
thing
they're
that
doing
they
with
made?
that they made on the deflector. I think they got a real taste for what the Borg really truly are in this.
Another place where you have to just kind of reinvent how the Borg work to make this work as an action movie is people get assimilated way faster
Right.
than they had before.
Right.
Because Hawk, is it Hawk in the scene where he's going to get assimilated? And in about, I mean, there's zombies now. You know, like 2 seconds he's going to turn around, and it's creepy and it's great, but like that wasn't how it worked before.
Do you like the addition of the mechanism for assimilation of the?
I'm so used to the tubules now. I always think about them. Yeah,
Right.
That's the thing is, this feels like almost a soft reboot for the board, where like
Right.
it's hard to complain about the ways in which they're different now, because again, some of it you can chalk up to adaptation,
Right.
and some of it is just in. Sometimes it feels like the Borg start here,
Right.
but it's complicated because it's complicated story-wise with Voyager and stuff later, because we try to make the Borg the collective, but also the singular queen all at the same
Right.
time, and it doesn't work. So the Borg are great in Scorpion, we don't use the queen. Soon as you get to
Queen.
Dark Frontier,
Right.
it gets real messy.
Right.
And also, that's just a real crappy script. But it gets real messy.
I
I
never.
like how there
We've
are
still got
light
isolated
linear
ships.
I don't
ships
even
out here
remember
too.
what happens in Dark Frontier ever. I'm always like, I remember that it's the Borg Queen, and they have Seven of Nine's flashbacks.
She lures
to-
7 of 9, and because like 7 of 9's all special for no good reason, and then at the end she has her parents as drones.
That's that. Yeah,
I remember that part.
I don't remember what the.
And
what
I
she was
remember
trying
it
to do, what her
being
scheme was.
45 minutes too long.
Right. Because it was shown as like a feature.
It was shown as a feature, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they had so much
He
success
lost his
with
gun.
Year of Hell. Because they did Year of Hell. That was the first one they did that way. I think.
I think it was. Well, they
I know
had
Way
to-
of the Warrior they did,
they
but I
did
can't
Way
remember
of the Warrior.
which came first.
The Way of the Warrior came first. Was that Year of Hell was season 4.
4.
Yeah, and 7 was already there.
We're getting footsteps, by the way, in space.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like there's already sound in Star
There's
Trek.
already sound
in
Wow.
space.
I
Why
know
are we talking
it's
about
just
that?
another example.
Uh-huh.
I just thought, I mean, of all the effects.
Well, if you're
the
going to be
footfalls-
consistent,
Gotta have
of all the
If you're
effects,
gonna-
the footfalls.
if you're going to have any sound, you should probably have all the sound.
I guess so,
There's
yeah.
that cliff.
Have you ever listened to the commentary that Frakes does for this?
No.
I haven't listened to that in a long time, but every time a big action thing like that happens, he always goes, "You guys love this part, right?" So it's like, this is what you guys like. Stuff blowing up.
Needless to complicate.
Frakes is a really good director. And it's cool they took a chance on him. They were going to use the guy who directed All Good Things, but he and Patrick Stewart didn't get along.
Oh, really?
So Stewart vetoed that. And so they went to Frakes.
Did he direct Generations too? That's
No,
not David
different guy.
Carson, is it? Oh, who directed All the Good Things then? I don't even...
Yeah, it couldn't have been the same director of that because they were made almost
That's
simultaneously.
right.
They were written simultaneously.
Uh-oh. Stuck.
Well, Hawk certainly was. How many of these have we seen now? Like 5 out of 6?
So yeah, this is a scene that doesn't feel like it goes on too long, even though it is kind of a video gamey scene. Just because it's a thing we've never seen before in Star Trek. You really want to savor it. The score is just wonderful. And there's a lot of tension.
That's a very dangerous maneuver that he just made. Very bold.
And we earn it because this is a movie that has all the Star Trek ideas at the core, and it feels character-driven enough. Even if you think Picard's out of character, it's at least a character-driven action story.
Still stuck.
For a long time, every time I'd go back to this movie, I was liking it less and less because of Picard issues I was having and stuff like that. This is one of the best viewings I've had in this a long time.
This one, I like the guy that just holds on to it. Well,
That Borg's like, whatever I have to do to get this message sent.
Yeah. There it starts going. Oscillating.
So, if Enterprise is to be believed, it would have taken 200 years for the Borg to get here
Right.
after this message gets sent,
Right.
Yeah.
which is hilarious.
And
Boom.
why
'Cause-
would the Borg be stomping on a faceplate?
Is that just assimilating him?
Well, instead of like the Borg just don't stomp on people, do they?
Maybe. There's the hose.
So I want to go back to a point I was starting to make earlier that we never fully explored. I gotta mention this. We were talking about how you could go back to, if you're the Borg, you go back to any time period.
Right.
I would maybe go back to like the 90s or the early 2000s
Right.
and go like before the big wars happened, where you had the most human beings that have ever lived on the planet,
Right.
assimilate all of them, and then not only do you stop the Federation from being born, but you have a lot more number,
True.
which is what you're about. You came here to, and like, it's a fun idea, but this is the obvious movie thing to do. We have to stop specifically the thing that we know
Right.
makes first contact happen. Yeah, but there's a bunch of other things you could have stopped that, like, I know this is the obvious thing that we always say, like go back and kill Hitler when he's a
Right.
baby. Kill Cochrane's parents.
Right, but but Jay.
What?
you know
What?
we could have had?
I'm
if this
Camp
could have
Logan to you,
happened?
sir. Sorry, what?
Gonna have Carpenter Street the movie.
Oh no! I take it all back. I take it all back. Okay, let me ask you this. Would it maybe not have been a better idea to do the voyage home thing and contrive some reason that Picard had to find a way to go back in time as opposed to following the Borg back? I don't know what exactly
Right,
that would
to
be,
stop-
but
right.
maybe this would still be the Borg are dumb and they don't go back far enough.
Right.
But you could have had the Borg go back to a certain time and Picard go, well, let's just go back earlier.
Right. Right.
You could have done that,
Yeah.
but then you wouldn't. Well, I was going to say then you wouldn't have them fighting the Borg, but all you'd have to do is have the Borg like already latch themselves onto the ship somehow, and like we didn't know about it. So just put some drones on the ship. But then maybe you don't have the Queen thing. But I don't like the Queen thing for the rest of Star Trek. Her performance is awesome, and it's one of the cool like when she's detached from her body and she comes down and attaches to the rest of her body. That is one of the most memorable special effects for me in film growing up.
Right.
That stuck with me so hard,
Right.
and it was so cool because it was in a Star Trek movie. Star Trek didn't do stuff like that. Like that scene is giving some stuff in Terminator 2 a run for its money. Like we're being innovative with special effects in this. It's crazy.
Best part.
So we're about to. He's about to say rhetorical nonsense,
Yeah.
and I use that all the time.
Who said?
I use that phrase constantly. No, it's great. I really like the exploration of how do you get a guy.
This poor guy again.
How do you get a guy to do the thing that he has to do to be a hero when he doesn't want to be one, and when like things have been altered and changed, and his motivation for doing it is kind of gone now. Like, how do you like once the guy knows that he's going to be famous and he doesn't want that? That's what's so compelling about his
Right.
arc about putting Cochrane in that place,
Right.
is that he like once he knows the future, they think that'll help. They're
Right.
like, well, you're going to be this major central
Right.
figure of our society. Yeah, I don't want that.
Right. Once again, Worf is right about everything, and they always shoot him down.
So, whether or not, again, you think Picard's out of character here, and that this stuff's melodramatic, it is so well acted.
Right.
And this stuff is how you know how great of a director Frakes is. Because he's able to get these guys to this place. Also, we weren't allowed to have a lot of this kind of character conflict in the series.
Nope.
That's a thing to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost
Oh.
Brandon. He's just watching the movie at this point.
Sorry, I got drawn into the scene. Got drawn
What's my
into the
favorite
scene.
The next scene was so.
That's everybody's favorite scene. And again, I kind of don't care if it works. It's
Well,
such a
good.
good scene.
Yeah. So speaking of Worf, though, when he's out on the deflector dish,
Stupid.
he
Thank
gets
you,
a hole in
audience.
his suit.
That's stupid. Real quick. What's great about Lily, I love the talk to the hand. That's great. What's great about Lily is that we don't get this in a lot of Star Trek things. Even though we are still in the future, this is like seeing somebody from our time
Right,
going to the ship,
right.
and she is our eyes in, and that
Right.
works really, really well. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
Worf gets a hole in his suit, and it says decompression in 45 seconds. Did we ever address
Yeah,
him
he tied
touching
a
the hole?
Borg arm around.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I missed that. When I was looking at you while you're saying something, I guess.
He's got to clean the phaser rifle.
So there are two things that I think of when I think of phaser rifles. One is first contact, the other is macrochasm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Who doesn't love macrochasm?
Patrick Stewart's so great in this.
Oh, he's brilliant.
And she's so great too. That's my favorite line. Oh shit.
So the great idea here, it's my channel, dude. So we don't do that here. So the great idea at the core of this again is the juxtaposition, the opposites of what the Borg are versus what the Federation is, and that when we get to the altruistic ideals of the Federation, we are a collective, and we aren't about the acquisition of things anymore. We're about helping each other. It's about the greater good, but the individuality is intact.
Oh,
Exactly.
so she makes a direct callback to that about how he didn't even try. He
Right.
just killed
Oh, yeah.
him.
Yeah, but it's still out of character.
No, it is. It is.
And it feels a little shock factory. It's kind of like, just wouldn't it be nuts to see Picard just murder a guy? That'd be nuts, right?
And I could
And then they
buy
shoot it,
on
and
the
it's
I bought
nuts.
it on the holodeck more than I did when he just shot the guy in the corridor.
The guy in the
asking
corridor
for
is
help.
nuts. Yeah. If he's that far gone, he's too far gone. And like, that's where I meet my wife halfway. Like, and like I said, I always go back and forth on this. Sometimes I'm a pendulum swing when it comes to the Picard arc in this, but they've lost me when he goes that far. So when she talks him out of blowing up the when she talks him out of staying on the ship and says blow it up, I just don't buy that he's not so far gone that he can ever be Michael Card again. That's kind of the big problem with it. But once again, and I'm a broken record, for the sake of just the film, if this is all you've ever seen,
Right.
it's fine.
Do you think that Patrick Stewart was in a TV movie version of Moby Dick? Like right
I never
after this
watched
came
that because
out?
I heard it was boring.
It's not. I mean, it's a TV movie on basic cable. But do you think he got that role because of this movie?
I'm sure.
You broke your shit.
And I don't know why. I don't know how I come up with so many places to use that, but I use that a lot too. I find ways to get. You broke your little ships in
I
there.
love that line.
I know, I do too. I've always wondered if that was scripted.
He broke the Enterprise.
It doesn't
C,
sound like
Brandon.
it, does it?
That sounds like a script, like a line that could have been ad libbed pretty
Broke the
easily.
Enterprise C.
Yeah. But isn't
Dude,
the
Rachel Garrett's in there.
is
You broke
the-
Rachel Garrett. Sorry, what?
Is the Phoenix in that thing too? Could he have pulled out the ship and shown her?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it's just Enterprises.
It might just be Enterprise.
But the NX-01 isn't in there.
No.
Because that's not a thing yet.
Right. insert
First Enterprise,
history
except
here.
not.
That wall is why we shouldn't have been Enterprise. Just that wall.
Yeah.
And also, well, they had the same thing in the first couple seasons of TNG too, in the Ready Room.
Yeah, and this wall. Shouldn't have done that. And I like that she said she never read it. That's fun. I also really love that line after she said, "You have books in the 24th century,"
Yeah.
and then she goes, "I never read it." Almost like a point of pride. It was like, I didn't have to read it.
His phase rifle.
Just might need the gun, dude. I know it's symbolic.
It's also really provocative just that we've got the situation where, like,
Right.
we're back in time, all hope is lost, we're gonna launch our piano-looking escape pods.
Right.
And they all look like baby grands. You ever notice that? And we're gonna be stuck living in the past, and you know it's gonna all work out, and that
Right.
they're not gonna end up doing that. But just to have a moment where they think that's gonna happen, that's cool.
So are there supposed to be like 1,000 people on this ship? It feels like there's like 10 people left.
I
at
know,
this point.
right?
It really does. I assume it wasn't a crew complement of 1,000. It was probably a lot less.
Yeah. But
I've
still,
never
like,
looked
they
up
must
what
have
the
all
crew
been
complement of
assimilated.
E is supposed to be. I don't even know if it's the same size as the
I
galaxy.
think it's like the same length, but I think it might be the width is not as wide.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as tall either. They said 24 decks. How tall is the
In the D.
D? Yeah.
I don't know.
You're probably wishing you had saucer step right now.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it does. I don't know why they didn't bring that.
Does the E
yeah.
have saucer step?
I'm sure
It
it
should.
does.
We never,
it should
ever
absolutely
use
have
it.
saucer set.
Why do you say that though?
Because
Because
D had it, and
I-
the original
Ryan?
Enterprise had it.
the Enterprise is
The
the
original Enterprise
flagship.
had
They just
saucer
never.
step?
Yes, they just never. They in I think. Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. They may mention one episode. They mention it, but they don't do it because they don't have money to actually show
Oh,
it.
really? I
Yeah,
don't
they
remember that.
cancel it or whatever. So
It's never been brought up if it could saucer step, so I'm assuming it doesn't.
I like the bridge of the E,
Mhm.
but I like the cut now.
Although there's a break off point where it looks like it
Right.
could, so I don't know.
As now growing up, I like the concept of the D where it was like very minimalist as far as the amount of control panels and everything they had. Because it was supposed to be like the technology was there, but it wasn't going to take over their whole life. And
Right.
stuff,
Well, in the original Enterprise, it's all buttons everywhere.
Right.
You want it to be
Enterprise
very integrated.
E's crew complement is 885.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Do you feel like there are even that many people on this ship?
I'm pretty sure the Borg killed everyone.
Yeah, it pretty much did. So
And-
he's lost a lot of life at this point.
Okay, so I'm going to give Generations exactly one thing over this movie, and that is when everybody's evacuating, it looks like there's 1,000
Right,
people on that
right.
ship.
Uh-huh.
We're going to see enough escape pods to carry them all, and I'm assuming 50 of them are empty.
Right.
Like, there's nobody on those escape pods.
Maybe they're just.
Oh, this is
well,
what Brandon, I bet you wished you had this prop. This seems like
Which-
something you would like. It's a CD of the future.
See, it's a CD of the
CD.
future.
Oh, plastic disc.
I love the song choice. I think it's great. I wish it went longer. It's a little
very
weird
quick.
that
Yeah.
he turns it on just long enough to launch, and then he goes, "Oh, we're doing important things. Better turn it off now."
Maybe
Why
they
don't you
only
just
got,
turn
like,
it
10
down a little bit?
seconds.
Yeah.
It was
This was a big deal for me in the
Fair use thing.
theater, and I think for a lot of Star Trek fans, because one thing this movie has over a lot of other Star Trek stuff is you feel like the culture is intact. Star Trek doesn't do a lot
Right.
of pop culture references.
right.
And that's one of the things that's really fun about the Orville.
Right.
But the Orville takes it too far
Well,
because
too far.
everybody knows everything about the
Exactly.
20th century
Yeah,
for no
no, that's
reason.
I
true.
love the Avis joke, but why would he?
I
know
love
about
the
Avis?
80s
Yeah,
joke
no,
so
that was
much,
great.
but
Why would
it
he know
doesn't.
about that?
But it doesn't track because when you get. I know this has nothing to do with this movie. When you get this, Adam's finally seen this show, so I can talk about it with him. When you get to the time capsule episode, and they don't understand cell phones,
Right.
I'm like, no,
Right.
Yeah,
the
I know
Avis
exactly.
joke doesn't work if you're like, what's a cell phone?
Please let our vehicle be covered, Avis.
Why did you finally watch that show, man?
My wife thinks that's the funniest thing. Every time we pass by an Avis, she's like praying to Avis. It's the best. I love the shot of the Phoenix with the warp nacelles. I love the progression in history of the warp nacelles to now. And, you know, it is a little bit weird that nobody's ever brought up the Phoenix, but it doesn't feel retroactive like Enterprise does.
No.
So that scene that we just had was the moment that Zephyr Cochrane changes as a man. And I think they did a really good job of incorporating that sense of awe that any astronaut says they get, like in interviews.
Especially because he doesn't
seeing
turn
the
on a
Earth.
dime.
Right.
When he gets to the Vulcans at the end, he has no idea what to do
Right.
with that.
Right.
And he tries to get them to dance to rock music
Right.
and to drink liquor. And I don't love the way Enterprise handles the Vulcans, but I do sort of like the idea that if that's their first contact, they're really weary of
Right.
humans.
Yeah.
And
And they seem to be going forward, don't they?
that's like that's the one thing that makes me sort of buy
I like
the
this
way the
musical
Vulcans don't
cue.
trust us.
When the escape pods.
Oh,
are
it's
there.
yes. Bum 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 bum. Look, they're baby grands.
Yeah.
A little bit. They kind of look more like
I don't
Superman
understand
symbols to
anybody
me.
thinks that thing.
They're not. They're just objectively not Superman symbols. You have to have 1 point at the end of one, and you don't. So
I know there's no
I was
point
gonna
at the
ask
end,
you,
but they're
When you
very
saw this in
similar.
the theaters, I got a poster that was a cutaway of the Phoenix.
what?
Yes.
You still have it?
No.
Oh man,
You know,
that
you
story
should
got
keep
less cool.
things.
That story
Sounds like
went
10
from
years ago.
awesome
You should
to less cool.
When we're done here, I'll show you no fewer than 20 items that I've kept from when I was 10 years old. I've never seen that poster, though. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
More weird.
Did that board just
ocular
look right into the
stuff.
camera?
You know, he looked
No,
right at
it-
Picard like he was going to come after him, but
Yeah.
he did not.
But they just
All
did.
the Borg are doing that in this movie,
Yeah.
though. They're looking right at you, and then they just don't go there.
This is another thing that Macrocasm took from this movie. The captain sweating, going around in the undershirt
Right.
of the uniform.
Yeah.
I love the scowl.
How about the overlying musical
So
score?
they take his shirt
Underlying.
off right before they assimilate him? Is that what happens? Because he's wearing his shirt. But at the end of the scene,
Yes.
he is not.
I'm gonna say
Could you forget
yes.
so quickly?
I love
So
what
our song, I want to know what the song
I
was.
love what Locutus looks like in this flashback. I almost wish some.
Begin to begin.
I almost wish somehow we could have done like not a remake of Best of Both Worlds, but like on this with this production value, just go back and do all the Locutus stuff that we didn't get to see, because every time we get a glimpse of it, I'm like, I just want that movie. I just want Locutus.
Right.
Creepy. We've removed some of his makeup.
Well, we've given him a really super creepy subplot with some thematic things that are really interesting, but with a story that actually doesn't make any sense at all. You wanted to know, that's what we did. Morin and Braga talk about how they decided it was really important that Alice Krieg's face was fully visible, because she's got this like real like erotic like evil sex symbol thing going on in this movie, and they didn't want to do the normal Borg thing and cover up her face. They're like, we partly cast Alice Krieg because we think she's beautiful. We don't want to mess up her face. So that's why she's got like the big thing in the back, and and there's nothing on her face. I think that was really smart.
The bun of wires.
The wire bun.
I don't understand why they needed an emissary to the humans. But
This
that
is
didn't
them
make any sense
retroactively
but it didn't make any
trying to-
sense.
it never made sense. Yeah.
Best of Both Worlds either.
They're like,
Why didn't they just
we
go
needed
and
a
take
voice.
over?
Yeah,
What
why
they
did the
never
book-
told us was if they did that with every and then you get to
Yeah.
Scorpion, and they're like, and Janeway's like, you give us an emissary, you've done it before, and they're like, that's right, we have done that before.
Right.
And then they get 7 of 9, and you're like, so this is only the second time in history they've ever done that? Why are humans so freaking important?
Right.
But also, they're important enough that the Borg keep coming after them, even though they keep destroying them with their own technology.
And they take up, and they take over like species after species after species. Right. The Borg are the thing that make Star Trek most look too Earth-centric. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of that, but the Borg takes the cake on that.
There's like actual species, I think. What species is mentioned in Voyager that the Borg thought was not actually worthy of assimilation? Was it the Kazon?
The Kazon.
Yes, the Kazon were not worthy of assimilation.
You know what else is weird? You know how in Voyager, every species the Borg assimilates has a number designation? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. The Ferengi are like in the 200s. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
They're like really early. They're like 2, 3 something. I forget now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you guys started in the Delta Quadrant. The Ferengi should be like in the thousands at least. Mm-hmm. So it's fun that he's got like tousled hair there, and it makes me wonder if the hair on that side is real hair, but the hair on the other side is not real hair.
Right.
And it makes him look like more like Dwight Schultz.
It does a little bit,
especially from the back. That Borg is pissed.
Yeah,
or that
Borg. I think the one on the right was the guy from the very first guy that got assimilated.
Oh boy!
I think it was the same actor.
So,
well, Picard's getting this comeuppance because he just wants to kill them all.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the Borg afraid of 8472?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, they
are.
Because they can't assimilate them.
Right. Well,
they kill them all.
I mean, they have trouble assimilating humans. Why aren't they afraid of humans too?
Because they can assimilate us. We just have plot armor.
Well, okay.
Species 8472, they physically can't assimilate.
That's true. Yes, you're.
And they have a way to kill them.
Right.
They have a way. Like Brandon, they had. You remember how Scorpion opens? Scorpion opens was the explosion of a Borg cube.
That's right.
That's not a thing we could do as easily.
Right.
Took us a while.
Do they have inertial dampeners on this ship? Because they're about to have a lot of velocity.
That's true.
And warp can't work without them. You would just die immediately.
They gotta have something.
Yeah, they gotta have something.
I feel like that's a technology that's not invented at this point.
Yeah, they might have it. If they can invent a matter-antimatter reaction, I feel like they could invent this.
Yeah,
we're
and
close to
I do like how low tech this looks because we're trying to be real NASA with it. But I kind of think it wouldn't be as low tech for if you can actually accomplish it.
Right. I thought we were close to fusion, Brandon. I didn't know we were close to matter.
No. Close to fusion, yes, but like they think that theoretically they've designed certain types of engines.
It's really funny how many episode titles are accidentally in the in the dialogue in this movie. I should also mention that First Contact is a great title.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that it was already an episode title of TNG. Good one,
futile.
Data.
He said it futile, not futile.
It's really stupid that you can just punch that.
A little bit. But
that's about as dumb as...
gas looks
Data's
toxic.
Really strong, so maybe,
that gas looks seriously toxic.
Sure. Oh, and another nitpick I love to bring up with this movie is... Data didn't used to be bulletproof.
That's true.
But this is a post-Terminator world, so he's got to be bulletproof.
Vacuum cleaner.
Patrick Stewart, I really hate to say this, but this does sort of look like the first time you've ever played an action hero.
He can't even see completely out the front of the nose.
You got real fit. Like
you
spent some time in the gym. You look great, but you also look like a Shakespearean actor and a guy who's constantly reading Dickens, trying to fight the Borg.
So
I'm just saying.
You ever realize how Patrick Stewart was like the first of all of these like Shakespearean British actors to go Hollywood and cross over before McKellen, before
Yeah, and McKellen doesn't do it so...
Before Dench and as M and Golden...
Yeah. Now, there are some other, like, American stage actors that did it. Rene Auberjonois is like that.
Right.
But, I mean, like, he was also, I think, in, like, a Shakespearean company.
Right.
But here...
Organic matter gone. Take us out of warp. He's giving commands like he's on the Enterprise.
Throttle back.
Brandon.
Is there a single effect in this 20-plus-year-old movie that doesn't hold up? I've not noticed anything yet.
The vacuum cleaner hoses look silly.
Oh, is that too silly for you?
Why are they vacuum cleaner hoses?
But is there anything real? Okay, that's maybe not great.
That looks okay. I mean, it's not terrible.
Okay,
Warp.
it's a little TV.
They were going approximately warp
It
1,
looks
right?
as bad as the tornado effect in Twister looks. So
Okay, all right, fine. And that was real close to this, so yeah.
Were they flying at warp 1?
probably.
Yes,
Which is light speed.
yes.
Okay.
What point are you making right now?
I feel like they...
That was the first warp flight, Brandon. That's the plot point. That's the idea.
I guess they...
What are you getting at?
I don't know
Waiting on
that
you.
they were the... that they were the right amount of distance for their travel time.
They went like 2 minutes.
Yeah, but I think the Earth would look a lot smaller at that point.
Maybe. This is crazy.
Weird.
Yeah, this just is right out of Terminator, right?
Yeah.
And like the
totally.
music cues here feel like Terminator, and it's great.
Yeah,
I would
that's
pay real money
totally-
for that prop.
Yeah. What if it still exists?
Me too.
Well,
I'd like to have
broken,
that.
though.
Reconnect it.
This is
Patrick,
really
you were
bad.
supposed to
Look at
actually
it.
break the
you asked
prop.
me about an effect that doesn't look good. His head is not the right shape. It's like there's bulging out on the
Shut
side.
up, it's awesome. I love it. No, you're right. I thought that in the theater where I was like, no, I can kind of tell how the makeup chair went.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I had this dumb
He's like
argument
half
with my dad.
Frankenstein on one side.
After I saw this movie with my dad, I had this dumb argument where I was like, he's gonna look like that in the next movie. They're not gonna fix him. He's just gonna look like that. I was wrong.
Yeah, can they really synthesize
I
his
parts? I wanted him to look like that in the next movie. So you see, look at that's consequences
Did you damage your
of
face?
being. No, what's wrong with your
Hey,
face?
beard, Jordy.
That's yeah.
Does it not make me look distinguished?
Oh, it looks better than you're making it out to be. We
It looked
we upped
worse
the
a second ago.
yeah. Like we've got the makeup going up and over it so that it looks like it's receded.
Right. But it still kind of looks like it's sticking out. On
You're
the top.
wrong. It's awesome. I don't think they ever
His
made.
arm looks good.
I don't think
good.
they ever made an action figure of that, but I'd like
should.
to have it.
They only made the basic First Contact action figures. Why were they bigger than the other Playmates action figures too? That was weird.
I don't know, but it was a cool scale.
Yeah.
I've got some of those. I like them a lot. You say only basic, but we got stuff from Cochrane.
Yeah, we did get that, but yeah.
And
the
it
first-
comes with a whiskey
Crazy like
bottle.
They did.
And, no, they didn't go crazy.
That was the first captain's log.
I think the Picard.
No, we didn't get Vulcan Captain.
I think the TNG Picard action figure though looked more like Picard than the First Contact action figure.
That
Oh,
guy
really?
looks like
You
a
think so?
Vulcan
In
already.
the face.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, that guy did look like a Vulcan.
Yeah, he really
He
did.
looked like the guy that played Jakar.
Yeah?
And Tomalak.
And Tomalak.
Cantulus.
What?
And the one arm.
Are we just going to stare at each other over the neutral zone? So I can't watch the scene anymore. In a Mirror Darkly ruined the scene for me. Because every time I watch the scene now, I'm just waiting for Zephram Cochrane to pull out a gun and start firing.
Yeah.
I just can't even watch it anymore.
Which is crazy. How did they take over the Vulcans in one ship?
It's absolutely preposterous. But I also kind of love it. But isn't it
Silence.
nuts how we just inserted shots in that scene?
I know.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I wonder if they paid,
And then they're gonna immediately regret having met the
I wonder
man
if
who
they
flew that
paid
warp ship.
James Cromwell royal residuals or whatever to use his footage in that episode.
I don't know, but they got him back for the pilot,
They did.
which was cool.
Yeah.
That was the thing I actually liked, where they used the voiceover thing, the classic monologue as a speech he gave. I think it works. I really do. A lot of things I don't like about that pilot, but that's not one of them. That's pretty classy. If you're ever going to canonicize it, that's the way to do it. Not the way they did it at the end of Darkness. That was dumb. So I said earlier that this movie is the most important film for Star Trek canon. And part of that, of course, is because, and I don't know if everybody knows this, this is not us finally seeing a thing we knew happened. We didn't know First Contact happened with the Vulcans.
Right, we didn't know.
And this is a reveal
We never
to
knew
Star
what
Trek
set
fans.
the path forward to the Federate, you know.
And I think this reveal works great because it's one of those rare... You don't need exposition and dialogue because nobody would actually be talking about it. They all know this already.
Right, I remember.
But it doesn't feel like we're...
thinking, like, who's it gonna be?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, it's
And then
gotta
you're
be
like, well,
Vulcans.
that's
But,
the only way to go with it. Yeah. But I think it's really cool that that reveal happens in such a natural way where it's like, we're not preventing people from talking about it just so we can make it a big reveal. It's not like that Force Awakens thing where we got to make sure that nobody ever says Ben. And you're like, fine, Ben! Is like, we just said our son like 4 times. Then Ben. It doesn't feel like that here because it doesn't feel like anybody would mention it. Some pretty decent writing. I also think it's super classy for this relationship not to go to a romance place.
Right.
Especially because I don't know what her relationship is with Cochrane exactly. Right. There's a hint that it might have been romantic at some time, even though he's clearly like twice her age. I should mention, by the way, that I don't think either of you guys have watched this, but Alfre Woodard is amazing in Luke Cage. She is one of the major villains in that show, and she's awesome.
Right.
So you saw some of her in that?
Yes. Yes.
She's great.
Oh my goodness, that looked.
Keep him there. Keep him there. The next 2 movies, he should look like that.
So can they? So they're missing part of their deflector dish. Can they really do what they're about to do?
They got a backup one.
They got a backup one.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
They put it on there.
Is that from Cochrane just to help them build another one with spare parts?
Yeah.
That's what happened.
And that's how that works.
Oh, the whole nobody detected us because of the moon thing is really stupid. You remember
Vulcans
that?
Did not detect us.
The Vulcans did not detect us because we bounced off something off the moon.
Drink some tequila. It probably has radiation.
And then the Vulcans
You're all
are
getting
immediately like,
radiation right now.
we're leaving.
You're gonna have cancer in 10 years, Vulcans.
No, the Vulcans are like, radiation, cool, and they just put their hands on a wall.
The Vulcans must find
What
this
is that,
very
a monster
illogical.
truck? What is that?
It's a monster. No, it's not. It's not. It's 2 things. It's like a, or is it one? I can't tell.
It's kind of a monster truck.
I can't tell.
It's kind of a monster truck mixed with a monster truck. Those are the 2 things that it is.
I'm also going to go
Monster
as far
and truck.
as say this is some of the best integration of the original theme into the theme they wrote for this.
Yes.
I didn't talk about that at the beginning, but it does your standard bump, and then you're just like, okay, it's going to be like, every Star Trek score.
Right.
I mean, like, I know the TOS movies do that too, but this is just one of the best.
And only the only
examples of
TOS
it.
movies that do it are the one
Or Goldsmith?
Goldsmith ones.
Yeah. That's true. 6 does it?
Now does I can't
Is
remember.
6 Goldsmith?
No.
Well, I
was
thought
that
6.
Cliff
I thought
Elderman
6
guy.
did it too. Now 5 does
No,
it.
6 has that theme that's like. No, I can't even do it. I don't even know how it goes.
But I thought 6 still opened with the standard bump.
No, that's
Does it
5.
not?
6 has that da 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 da.
Well, I know, but does it just not even open with it?
It just has da. It has the fanfare.
Okay, I love that fanfare though.
But it doesn't have the actual.
I don't care what you say. It's great.
It has the Alexander Courage fanfare, but it doesn't have the.
You guys, I have found all kinds of things over the years to complain about with this movie. And like I said, every time I see it, it was like getting worse and worse for me. But this is the best viewing I've had of this in a really long time, and I just can't deny how cinematic it is, and how much
absolutely.
fun it is.
I
Hey,
wish we could
you're
have
the
watched
cable
it on your
person.
big projector too.
The cable.
They should have called it Cable Guy.
I forgot
Was
to
it a
mention
woman's
earlier,
name, so they went Cable Person instead of like
I guess.
Cable Woman or something?
The Borg department head.
Board department heads!
I was going to mention that an actor that I've really
Assistant
liked,
to board department heads. I'm kidding.
an actor that I've really liked, who in anything else that he's been in that I've seen him in, makes a cameo, just brief. It's before he was famous. Adam Scott.
I was going to mention it
on
but
the
we were
Defiant.
Talking. Yeah, he's this helmsman.
He's the helmsman on the Defiant.
Yeah, he's great.
And
Oh,
when
is
I
that who
found
that is? Okay.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
I found that out later, I
In the theater, you're like, who's that guy? Why is
really
nobody
was-
else
he
from
He was an
DS9?
unknown at that
Right.
point.
No, but what I
wasn't
mean
he?
is, you're like, why is no one from DS9 on the Defiant
Right,
except
right,
for Worf?
exactly.
Right, true.
But it's funny because
He's like,
played
it can be salvaged.
played
You're like,
a
well,
Star-
that's good. We have a TV show to
He
make.
played a Star Trek geek on Parks and Recreation.
Yes,
And
yes,
he wrote
yes.
that whole fanfic with Data and Picard.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Was it about how Archer shouldn't exist?
No, it was like a slash fic.
Well, I figured that's where you're going with that. Yeah, I figured.
Fully functional.
William Tex Collins. Thanks, First Aid guys.
West Camping.
Several people got maimed and injured in this film, but luckily we had Tex there.
There's
But
a
no
with
animals.
his
no
were.
Band-Aids.
animals harm. They have that credit, and I saw that when I was a kid. I was like, what animal was in this
There were
movie?
no
Yeah.
There
animals
was a
to
dog.
be harmed.
There's a dog.
Oh, was there a dog?
At the encampment.
Okay, so I didn't go on and on about this like I wanted to. Do you guys agree with me that the future should be messed up because they killed too many people on the planet? I just think that's a problem.
Could be.
And I think it's really funny too because usually in a thing like this, we do this in Star Trek 4. Usually you'd get back to the present and we'd check to make sure the status quo was okay.
Yeah.
But we didn't, and like it's really classy to stay with the basic premise of the film in the first place, that like the movie ends in the 21st century
Right.
and we're seeing first contact being fulfilled.
Right.
That's cool. But until you get to another movie, there's every possibility they get to the future and it's all jacked up.
Right.
That's
right.
true. And they like show up a moment
even
later
on the,
and they go,
uh,
well, we fixed that, but now
Right.
we got to fix this.
Right.
And like, oh wait, because like, they could have gotten to the future like we're at war with the Klingons or something.
Like the end of past tense when his picture's in the database.
Yes. Well, I love that kind of thing where you have like a subtle butterfly effect thing going.
They call back to it. And Nog's like, why is the picture of Captain and Sisko?
Yeah, it comes back because that show remembers
This
everything.
guy looks exactly like Captain Sisko.
Yeah, I mean, like we even call back to Anselm. Like that show remembers
That's
everything.
true.
It's the only cool thing about that episode, by the way. That episode sucks.
Which one? Little Green Men?
No, the episode with the girl that messes with Jake's mind.
Because in the book was called Ansel and the Visitor. That's right.
That's
right.
the only cool
Yes.
thing in that episode. Otherwise, it's awful.
Right.
Ba-ba-bum.
The Muse.
Is that what that
I
is?
think.
That's one of those things where there's a muse in one series and a the muse in the other one, right?
I think so. Or maybe it's Muse. I don't. Yeah.
Isn't that one of those though, where one
Maybe.
show has an article
Yes.
adjective and the other one doesn't?
Yes.
Anyway, guys, that was really fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good.
Finally, we got to watch a really great movie again. So that's exciting. Next time, we won't be doing that, and you'll get to listen to Adam and Brandon talk about Insurrection. Because I'll be off watching something that I would rather be watching. No, I'm kidding. I'll show up. I'll be here in body. I don't know if I'll be here in spirit. But we will watch Insurrection next time.
That's the one with the Sona, right?
Yeah, and your favorite, F. Murray Abraham.
Oh yeah,
The Sona-
I do like him. But
And
I,
I'm going to do it like this. The Sona and or the Baku.
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, so look forward to that. I actually am excited about watching Nemesis with you guys.
That's going to be interesting. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Forever.
A lot of people don't go back to it because, I mean, it's not good. But there's a lot of stuff, like,
that thing called the
visually I like
Tumbler?
about that movie.
No, that's bad.
The Tumbler is
No, what's
Batman.
it called then? The
The Argo.
The Argo. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
The Tumbler.
No, that is Batman. You're
It's a
right.
Doom buggy in space. Anyway, everybody, thanks so much for
Dot
listening.
Buggy too. It wasn't
I remember
anything
watching
they
it,
The
made
space
special.
Dune buggy.
I remember reading an article in Star Trek the magazine about how Patrick Stewart was
You just
really.
wanted it. You just wanted to do that.
Yeah,
Well,
no, Patrick Stewart
yeah.
that
He
was to
just
blame
wanted-
for that partly.
yeah.
And you look at the special features, and he's all like, "We've never done like an all-terrain vehicle, and Picard's never." That's because Picard wouldn't do that. Why would Picard be doing
was so
that?
hokey to me at the time
in
too.
Star Trek until this point. There were no cars.
Yeah, he's
in
like,
Star
you
Trek.
didn't know this, but Picard was a NASCAR fan. I'm like, no, he wasn't. He didn't say that. He didn't say that.
He
Anyway,
participated in the dock car. What was that rally they used to do in Africa where they drive across the
Nemesis Picard would have walked up to Cochrane. And, I mean, I know he wasn't really on the planet for very long, but if he had been down there and he noticed it, the Nemesis Picard would have walked up to Cochrane and been like, "Can I drive your monster truck?"
He's a rally racer.
Okay.
In spare time. You didn't know that.
He drags dune buggies down the strip too.
While playing his Reskin flute. He's just like driving down the road. Anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again very shortly for Insurrection. I was Captain Logan. This was Brandon Grimm.
See you guys.
And Adam Meredith.
See you later.
See you later, folks.